Hey, it's Friday, which means it's time to deploy. I'm joined here with Matt. How was your week?
It's been excellent. Thanks, John. I come on this show and suddenly it's Friday again, which is awesome because I get to chat to you about all the great things that have happened. But I'm like, damn, where are these weeks actually going? So,
I know.
uh,
I know.
yeah, that was
Matt's a relatively new employee. He's starting to lose that new employee smell, like a new car. He's starting to smell like a normal employee. That's a bit gross, but there you go. Anyways, how's the onboarding? How's the drinking from the fire hose going? Are you feeling more comfortable these days?
Yeah, very much so. The first few weeks was certainly a lot of, what's going on here, which is all awesome stuff, of course. But
Yeah.
I was able to navigate my own way around and read this and follow the breadcrumbs and be like, oh, what's that shiny thing over there? So it's been really awesome to look at all the things that have been going on. But now I'm starting to get into my motion and starting some content streams in different avenues. So I'm really excited to start getting some things out there. And a few blogs have already been published, one of which I think we've got coming up on the show today. So
Yeah, there you go. So it's a perfect segue. Speaking of content, here's Matt's blog post entitled Beyond Skeleton Pipelines. Who owns your software pipeline? Who does, Matt, own my software pipeline is what I want to know. But what's this all about?
So this was driven from what I saw in the field a lot when I was out there working with developers and software companies was quite often they would get going with what I referred to as a skeleton pipeline. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So you would get provided, you might use your favorite large language model to generate you a pipeline to say, hey, can you do a build and release of a .NET app for me? Or your build tool might even give you a sample one based on what's in your repository. And it usually did the job. Like it got your build done and it would allow you to deploy it somewhere. But I'd often see these skeleton pipelines just remain as what I called skeleton pipelines. So 12, 18 months down the track, they were still using the same deployment process, but there were pains with that. And my big thing was to try and treat your deployment pipeline and your software delivery process as part of the product as well. So surface that back up to your product managers, get items on your board in Jira or whatever you're using to make those improvements. And there's a lot of these elements in software delivery that you just don't know what you don't know as well. So in this post, I also linked off to an excellent white paper that we've got, which is around the 10 pillars of pragmatic deployments. And it's not necessarily just as a checklist for you to say, oh, yes, I'm now doing all these things in my software delivery. It's just a really good white paper that takes you through some of the elements of what we think good deployments look like, and you can take those and adapt them into your situation as well. So if you haven't yet got security scanning in your build process, but you often deploy your software and then pen tests pick up things that you could have fixed way back over here, then maybe that's something to surface, treat it as a product, and work on your software delivery process over time and give it the value and attention that it needs.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of lint or dust that can collect within your pipelines for sure. It's almost analogous to what you see with a lot of folks in North America, where typically you'll have a dryer in your house and you'll have this big sort of snake, which is the basically the outlet of the dryer. And inside there, it's all caked with debris and dust and lint and all that sort of stuff. You got to clean that stuff out once in a while. You got to improve it as well. There's lots of automations you can include. And you're right. A lot of times the sort of vanilla pipeline it serves its purpose well, which is really the first thing you should create if you're doing a new project is build out your deployment pipeline first, go backwards. And the reason why is because at least you'll have a reliable pipeline for you to do builds, tests, deployments, etc. And then from there, start to incorporate other things. And I think that Octolint's a good example of something that you could do for an Octopus instance, for example. You can check to see whether or not your deployment solution, like Octopus Deploy, is in relatively good health. There's other things as well. And so I like the idea of going above and beyond this. So there you go. This is from Matt and talking about skeleton pipelines. Awesome. We have another new blog post entitled New to Our Enterprise Tiers from Michelle, who's talking about some of the offerings that we have in 2025.2, which is now available, and we'll talk about that in a second. But in particular, in 2025.2, we added global deployment freezes, priority deployments, and ITSM for runbooks. And so we're going to be talking about these in an upcoming webinar, which we'll talk about in a second. But essentially what we're doing is we're talking a little bit about here of some of the capabilities that a lot of our enterprise customers will appreciate. And so So starting off with deployment freezes, what this allows you to do is basically set up global freezes as well as project level freezes. So you can set up basically a freeze window where no deployments will occur. And there are a variety of reasons why you may want to do this. A deployment freeze will allow you to basically isolate out any deployments so that, in whatever reason, maybe it's Super Bowl weekend, maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's Halloween, you don't want to do deployments, or maybe it's this, if you're a particular site that's used at certain parts of the year, you may want not to do a deployment during those times. So setting those things up is going to be really important. Priority deployments, also analogous to this, is being able to have deployments higher up in the deployment queue. And so this is a feature that we have the ability to do. You can give a prioritized deployment through a checkbox. And you can do this both across a new deployment as well as those that are environment related. So you can actually prioritize an environment within a lifecycle, which is an ism within Octopus itself. And so you can see some screenshots there. And then finally, ITSM for runbooks. So ITSM is basically a capability that is very popular for a lot of folks who are wanting to do integration with approvals and serving as sort of an arbiter for releases, etc. So integration with, for example, ServiceNow, which we've dubbed here fake ServiceNow account connection. But this is something where if you're doing change requests via ITSM through things like ServiceNow or Jira Service Desk, things like that, you may want to actually make those changes via those ITSM settings. And that's something that we've added. All of these we will be highlighting in an upcoming webinar, which you can find at /webinars. We actually have a release party coming up on June 26th, featuring a lot of folks from the product team. And they're going to be talking about everything from Terraform to deployment governance, which will highlight, obviously, the freezes and prioritize deployments, and our Kubernetes insights. So you want to make sure you register and check that out. In addition to that, we also have our State of GitOps webinar coming up later on June 19th. That will be Steve and Dan talking about our latest report, which you'll find up on our publications site. The Octopus 101, which was scheduled to go today, did not happen because the internet melted down. There was a major outage on the internet today. Some of you may have noticed that Google and other sites weren't working today, and we had no control over that. So there you go. We were unable to host our webinar. So apologies for that. We're going to move that to a new date, and hopefully you'll be able to attend for the next one. Were you affected by the outage that happened this morning?
Not really. I was actually still asleep. I kind of woke up and started trawling through my social media and Slack. I'm like, well, something's happening right now, but I don't need to worry about it. The kids are getting up, so I'll get them ready for school. So
that's right. Yeah. That's right. Awesome stuff. All right. So anyways, that's new to our enterprise tier. You can check that up on our blog. And if you want to get a rundown of all the latest features, you can check out our What's New page, which has been updated. This is my favorite page on octopus.com. This is highlighting all the latest and greatest features we have shipped for Octopus Cloud and Octopus Server. So you can see here we actually have integration with Clause or Kubernetes Live Object SaaS, one of my favorite features of Octopus, latest features. We also have a section here for 2025.2, which is brand new. So here we go. So you can inspect Kubernetes manifests and do diffs across them, so you can see the differences here between your YAML files if you're so inclined. You can easily manage your Octopus instance, obviously through the Terraform provider, which we had a webinar about. So the Terraform provider 1.0 is now available, and if you want to check that out, you can check out our YouTube channel for that. We have obviously scoping of common tenant variables to environments, and that allows you to do easier deployments. This is obviously a very common scenario where people want to actually scope those common variables across tenants. And so being able to do that turns out to be a really big win. We've added more and more capabilities around tenants, and people just love it. What we find for a lot of customers is that with tenants, we see tenant usage specifically with customers who are more mature in their adoption of Octopus. And so by facilitating this in a bigger way, obviously it speaks to that. We have all the features that we just highlighted in Michelle's blog post, and we'll talk about it there. And so that's all what's new and latest inside of 2025.2. So good things happening there. You can check this out at /what's new. Make it a bookmark, if not a homepage, as I like to say. We did mention this during our last Deploy on Friday, which is our new Datadog integration. One thing that's new in this, we updated the blog post to feature our YouTube video here, which highlights the basically a 2-minute video. It's sort of a trailer of what's new, etc. You can get a sense of what's in there. So if you want to check that out, you can check out the blog post. Have you had a chance to check out the Datadog integration yet? Have you seen my video that I did? I worked tirelessly on it for minutes and hours to explaining everything that's new. Have you had a chance to take a look yet?
I have watched the video. I haven't gotten hands on it with myself, but I certainly have
Okay.
watched the video. And yeah, I think it's really great integration. A lot of our customers are naturally Datadog customers, and they want to bring that sort of information from Octopus into Datadog, so they've got that holistic view. So yeah, I think it's really awesome. From what I heard, Dash this week or last week was a great event as well, well attended, with our team, of course, being there on the ground talking to lots of different Datadog customers as well.
That's right. Good to mention that as well. So at Slash events, you'll find our upcoming events. We were just in New York City talking to folks at the Dash conference, which is from Datadog. And then we'll be in Japan, in Tokyo, for KubeCon. So if you happen to be at KubeCon, check us out. We'll also be having some upcoming events in September, October, the usual suspects, KCD, GitHub Universe. We'll be at other ones like KubeCon North America, for example. These and other events, you'll check us out at octopus.com/events. And now it is time for everyone's favorite news segment called Support on Friday. Segment where we take a question that's been posed either to our Slack channel or to other locations. And this is a question that came up from a person called AR. Don't know his real name. It is 3 a.m. their time, though. Interesting. So it says, hello, I would like to improve the reliability of my polling tentacles by adding some health checks. Very common scenario, but a little bit more challenging with polling tentacles, as we'll talk about. I was having a look at the code on GitHub and came across the related file healthcheck-tentacle.ps1. This is a PowerShell file. However, I see that the section for polling tentacles is not defined, hence my question, how do you suggest I do a health check for tentacles in polling mode? So just to clarify what this looks like, this is the source we have for Octopus Tentacle. This is open source, available up on GitHub. And we have this health check PS file that is listed. This is for a listening tentacle, which is a lot more easier to talk to and communicate with because it's obviously listening for commands. So we can issue it a health check by simply invoking a web request against it. This is a well-known port for Octopus Tentacle, 10933. So you can issue a web request to this listening tentacle, and then it will respond accordingly. If it does respond with an HP request that is 200, then you know it's alive and well. If otherwise it's not responding correctly and you've got problems, so you have a status code there. However, with polling, the exercise is left to the readers. So we have a commented out section here. The good news here is that Justin, who's a member of the community, wrote a little integration here. So I wrote this a while back while trying to debug a hung polling tentacle issue, but you should be able to use it as a base for client-side monitoring of a polling tentacle, then performing the necessary actions instead of taking a process dump. And so this is very common. So Justin posted this here. And what this is doing is using WMI, the Windows Management Instrumentation API, to basically communicate with a Win32 process. Very common scenario. You can ask it questions like, do you have any, are you listening? Are you alive? Is tentacle.exe running? In addition to that, are ports open, for example, to 10933? Can we get a dump of the current footprint, etc.? Can we get a sense of what's there? Are there any log entries that have been made recently? These and other sorts of checks. This is what Justin's script does. And so this is a sort of thing that you can do to check this. Now, this is a really great question in general when talking about polling tentacles. And my summation of this question is basically that when doing a check against a polling tentacle, it can be tricky. Octopus does rely on a passive model. So what we do is we do have in what are called machine policies, the ability to do health checks on polling tentacles. So you can set this up, and we actually schedule a health check task that runs. And this is part of your machine policy. And I think by default, it's like 20 minutes or so. So if we haven't seen a polling tentacle call back within 20 minutes, we may mark it as error. But this definitely leaves a gap between a tentacle process where it appears alive, but is hung, or unable to connect. And that's where these external sort of scripts can help. And so you may want to run a script like the one that Justin here provided. It will check basically the tentacle process and its ability to maintain a healthy outbound connection. There are many teams that we connect with that use similar sort of watchdog type scripts to restart Tentacle or trigger alerts if issues are detected. Incidentally, one of the ways in which you can do that is through something like Datadog. So you can use Datadog in addition to the integration there. You could actually have it do a monitor check or an agent check on one of your processes, including tentacle.exe. So that is something that you can take a look at in terms of monitoring this. In short, Octopus does monitor polling tentacles via polling and heartbeats, but client-side health checks like this script will actually help and is the best option for proactively checking local issues. And there you go. That is our latest update for the Support on Friday, our latest and greatest segment that we have here on Deploy on Friday. And awesome. That, as they say, is the latest news. Sorry, I cut you off there, Matt.
No, that's all good. I was just going to say it's a segue from that, but one of the things I shouted out on LinkedIn today, and I know you out there, you're in a lot of Slack communities, but that highlights some of the benefits of being in our Slack community, the Octopus Deploy one. There's over 7,000 members in there, and that advice channel is one that I love because people can come there and ask non-urgent questions or just queries around Octopus Deploy, and you'll get input either from someone here at Octopus Deploy or someone else from the community. So I really love it. If you're not against adding yet another Slack workspace into your probably already busy workspaces that you've got, then I highly recommend it. So
there's Matt talking a little bit about this. Did you know we have over 7,000 members? That's great information there. So yeah, definitely check that out. And you can find this all up on our community site, which is at /community. There you'll find a link to join our Slack community along with other things as well. So make sure to check that out going forward, /community, which is a great place to get resources, help, and advice from others. And there we have another edition of Deploy on Fridays in the can. Matt, thanks for your time and attention. Thank you for your time and attention. We will see you on the next one. Take care, everyone.